The sales robots have taken over, and they're decimating deals left and right, destroying them right in their tracks. On the AI for Sales podcast, our mission is to empower everyday sellers to embrace AI superpowers to build new bridges and crush quota. Dr. Joel Abon said it best in the AI for Sales book. In sales, time kills deals. In AI for Sales, AI kills time. Join our hosts as we learn from the C-suite of the world's fastest growing companies about how you can leverage AI today to transform your sales revenue engine while being the best version of you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another AI for Sales podcast. I'm here today with Caitlyn Vaughn, who's the co-founder and CEO of AscendAI. And I love running into other .ai founders because it's such it used to be a rare thing in 2019, but in 2023, I think things have turned the corner and we're finding more AI companies. So Caitlyn's done a lot in and around the AI space, running a team at a big AI company, doing research in AI. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, dig in. We're talking to someone who's an expert in this area. So Caitlyn, welcome to the call.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
And you are located where?
I am down in Austin, Texas, where all the other Silicon Valley 2.0ers are.
Indeed. I've visited there and bought my cowboy boots from there about 3 years ago with Nathan Latka. I'm sure you've ran into him in Austin, Texas before.
Did you get it from Alan's Boot Shop on South Congress?
I did, yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, I did, because we stayed at the Congress Hotel. And it was very close to walk there on the way into Austin. So yes,
totally.
Indeed.
You got the full experience.
Your city. So you're in Austin now. I like to help our audience get to know you to kind of help connect the dots between, what was your thing as a kid? Like, what were your passions, your hobbies, to help people kind of understand, why would someone want to get into this thing called the AI? So where were you raised? What were you working on when you were a kid?
Yeah, great question. So throwing it all the way back, I'm from San Diego, California. Had an amazing childhood, and my thing growing up was that I was always obnoxiously outgoing and confident and a little bit chatty. So I really remember the story from my parents always tell me. They're like, we used to take you to SeaWorld all the time to go see all of the whales and the sharks and stuff. And they were one time we're talking and we turn around and you're just gone. And of course we're panicking, right? Thinking you were kidnapped or taken. We're looking everywhere. And eventually we find you, 3 or 4 years old, 20 feet away, just having a conversation with a stranger, right? Every parent's worst nightmare. But my 4-year-old self's dream come true of just freedom and curiosity, right? So that has really stuck with me throughout my life. I've always been really curious about other people, asked a lot of questions. I was always the why kid, right? And as I have gone through my career, I started in sales and eventually worked my way into AI and engineering now.
Interesting. I love the curiosity factor, and it sounds like it's stuck with you from then to now. So a lot of us leave that behind somewhere in our teens or 20s or 30s, and it's fun when you can keep that level of curiosity all the way through life. So very
absolutely.
Cool. I just had the founder of Reggie.ai on the show yesterday, so it hasn't aired yet, but by now people will have seen it. And we talked about what's changed. And for him, over the last 2 to 3 years, his view was that traditionally people would use AI to accomplish a certain task, like, hey, go write me this or go do that. And where he's seeing the shift already taking place and already here is that now the human in the loop happens as the AI asks the human in the loop, because the AI knows the right set of steps to take in the right order, and a human can't process all of those many things. So are you seeing that transition also?
Yeah, super interesting you say that. So when I started working in AI a couple of years ago, I started my tech career at Copy AI, if you're familiar. And we started with GPT-2 when that was a thing. And it's really funny looking back now, one of the characteristics of Copy that's unique from other companies is that it gives you 6 results for every query, right? Every time you prompt. And someone was asking me like, why does it give you 6? And it's like we were one of the first companies to come out with this like whole generative AI thing. And when it was running on GPT-2, the quality of the output was generally not nearly as high as GPT-3, 3.54, chat, everything that we've developed now. So having the optionality of multiple outputs was like where we started. And it's so interesting because where my career has transitioned into and where AI has come to now is more of like the workflows, the full automation of everything. Instead of saying, write me a sales email, you can create an API that uses the OpenAI API to like write copy and scrape pages and do it all fully automatically. So you're not having to like one by one now go through profiles like a traditional SDR or do a lot of that heavy labor that's just mundane and like kind of wears your brain away,
Yeah, I love that. I love that thought process. Talk to us a little bit about AscendAI. So on your website, it says get answers in context, ask questions against your HR handbook, get answers in context, right? So I assume this is an app for HR professionals.
Yeah, exactly. So I left Copy a couple of months ago and then went on my own founder's journey now. So trying to do the damn thing. And where we ended up, I talked to hundreds of enterprises, startups, like CEOs, founders, a little bit of everything. And where I found the biggest pain point inside of like an HR realm is the whole idea of if you have a question as an employee or as a manager, whether that question is what are the regulations for maternity leave, or how do I deal with this interpersonal problem with my manager, right? It could be like just a range of anything. In order to get an answer, there are so many hoops that you have to jump through. Going to, if you have an HR person, I've heard horror stories of like, I emailed my HR person and they got back to me 3 weeks later and was like asking a follow-up question. So I didn't even get an answer, right? Or when I was at ADP, I was in a traditional sales role, full cycle. And every time I had a question starting brand new with my entire team who didn't know much about sales, anytime we had a question, we'd go to our manager and say, hey, like, how do we do this? Where do we find this? And she would say, go search Seismic. I don't know if you're familiar with that software.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just like a document vault where you would spend hours sifting through documents trying to find the right answer for your question. So what we're doing at Ascend is essentially allowing companies to embed all of their documentation inside of a query model. And then that allows your employees to search for information in context, and it will pull the relevant policies for your people. Say you're asking about maternity leave, it will pull the, I think it's called FMLA policies, right? That are like the legal requirements for your company size, that kind of stuff. And just give you the information that you need to make decisions, essentially.
Very neat. I just had someone on the show recently that talked about tires and using AI to buy tires. And he said it's so inefficient in the tire business because you go in and think of the last time you bought tires. Well, they don't have a facility big enough to host every set of tires that would be the proper ones to go with your car. And they build it with a certain set that are in mind, not 100 different choices. So the right answer is a simple answer, but salespeople get involved, spiffs, buy 3, get 1 free. And so it creates inefficiencies in the model. And it makes me think about an HR question, right? If I would go to Cynthia at this one company, as a director, I would have a different conversation and get a slightly different answer than if one of my managers would go to her or a VP. So whenever you now there were certain people in HR that are amazing. But if you add too much variability in there, you can get into legal jeopardy. Customers aren't happy. The employees aren't happy. There can be fines and lawsuits that I believe that this solves for. So huge business problem that you've taken on.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when it comes to, a termination letter, onboarding, any of those kind of fine line where you have to say certain wording and you have to frame things a certain way, it just kind of helps remove all of that bias and all of the potential for, lawsuits due to malpractice or anything like
Sure.
that.
Like if
So
you're going
there's
to put
definitely,
one person on a PIP, then
yeah.
I'm sure the AI is going to be smart enough to say, well, is there anyone else performing in a similar way to that person?
Totally.
Yeah.
And even in my career, I found that there are very few women in tech compared to men, right? And one of the pain points that I uncovered was even from like a managee standpoint, the way that managers talk to males versus females is very different, which, affects your ability to perform or how you interpret things. So just like removing all the bias of like, here's the information factually, and with this, you can go and make decisions with that, right?
Yeah. Wow. I feel that because even with a team of 100 people and 20 years experience, and I joked with one of the directors who's just a superstar performer, and I said something that was just slightly on the edge of out of bounds. And
Mm-hmm.
he took it personally and he raised it up. And I was like, wait a second. Like, I didn't mean anything by this.
Totally.
But had I, with the proper guidelines of here's how you have this conversation, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's huge, being able to put this information at the right hands at the right place at the right time. Wow.
Certainly. And I've had experiences, both on the employee and manager side where you're having to have a tough conversation and it seems so intuitive outside looking in of like, yeah, you go to the person and you talk about it, whatever. But for someone to especially be put in a manager role based on the merits of their last role, which has nothing to do with managing people, it can be really hard to tackle a lot of these tough conversations. I think just having someone in context lay out for you, without you having to go to HR and make it a whole thing. You just need the information to be a better person, to be a more empathetic leader, and to communicate more effectively. So hopefully AI will help us kind of transcend into a world where we can communicate more clearly and just have a better, more peaceful life, right?
Have you seen the show Suits on Netflix?
Yeah, I have.
I'm to the season where the Donna is being rolled out.
Yep.
you know, empathy built in and the right quip at the right time, but
Yep.
reminds me of this conversation. Are you leveraging AI in mainly the generative AI aspect, or are there other ways on the back end with big data and presenting dashboards and things, and where your problem reps are? What else do you use AI for besides the obvious one?
Yeah, great question. We're actually using AI in a lot of places. At my last role at Copy AI, we were able to scale up from 1 to 12 million in a year with a team of, I want to say, like 34 to 36 people. So I intend to bring a lot of that lean team aspect to my new company, which I've only been at for about 3 months for context. But yeah, we're using AI in quite a few different places. On the side, I do AI consulting for sales. So I'm able to pull a lot of those strategies into our own company and do a little bit of growth hacking. So for context, I don't know, I'm sure you've talked about this so much on this podcast, but utilizing AI to write hyper personalized sales emails is probably one of the best use cases for AI. Being able to, personalize at scale is something that we've never been able to tackle before. And asking a 22-year-old SDR to go and search through someone's LinkedIn profile, find pain points that are related to that person's job or their industry, and then connect it with the pain points of your product. And then write, amazing copy is actually a really tall order. It's something that's really difficult to do. Not that many people are good at it. I'm not great at it. And it's just one of those mundane tasks that, the more you can personalize something, the higher response rate that is going to get, because it's going to resonate better with that person because they're going to understand your product more within the context of their own pain points. So we've been able to loop in, almost fully automate the SDR role. So we have like an SDR manager, and what he's able to do is send out hundreds of thousands of emails every month, which is pretty crazy. If you're looking at the scale of like hiring, if you were to hire people to do that, you would need, hundreds of people. But we're able to essentially use Clearbit and Salesforce. So as leads come in, we enrich them using Clearbit. We take that enriched data and run it through Copy AI, built a custom API that writes hyper-personalized sales emails based on, certain custom fields, essentially from the Salesforce application. And then we have that going through Outreach. So it's like a fully automated loop of just like very personalized non-salesy sales emails. And we found that we get like a 12 to 15% higher response rate using that than just like a, hey, brackets name, right?
Yes, it makes my heart smile because 4 years ago we trademarked personalization at scale, the sentence. And
Wow.
and so when you say personalization at scale, it's just music to my ears. And I remember when I first posted about this hyper personalization powered by AI, the founder of Eloqua, who's now a friend of mine, but at the time, the only word that came to mind in my social feed that he posted was gross, period. Because I shared 5 different personalized emails that were created by AI. And I was like, look, these are them. Put them up against any one of my best humans. And I said, let's put one of my top reps in the room with the AI for 1 hour. Let's see how many the AI kicks out. And then let's see how many the person kicks out. 10 versus 10,000 or however many you want the AI to write. And it's like, if you look at quality and quantity, the AI is going to win 10 times out of 10. And so 5 years ago, that was like so far away from reality. And nowadays it's, wait, you're going to spend $10 for one person to write a physical email? Yeah, you probably want the person to look at it before it goes out.
Totally.
Because human in the loop matters. But AI has gone so far and it's only going to keep going. So do you think your product and company doesn't even exist if AI doesn't exist? It sounds like to me.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting. I ended up partnering with a company called Logic Tree. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they do basically ethical AI in the form of logic trees. And we're able to build our platform on top of that really quickly and implement changes really easily. It has all of the enterprise level protections, data security, all of that kind of great stuff. But without AI, the product that I would be building would be a PDF document with a search function, a control F, right? That's kind of how people search for information through documentation now. And to be honest, it's like, even if you find the right information, you don't necessarily know how that's applicable to your question, right? So now we're able to take this information that's relevant to you and personalize it to your question and to the situation, so that the basically solution is given to you in a much smoother way, right?
Yes, right. It's user friendly. It's how, just like online, people want to buy in the easiest possible frictionless way. And why would you not want to have HR consumed and delivered in a similar way to your employees? So it just makes perfect sense to me. Where do you think AI goes over the next 3 to 5 years? Oh, and real quick, there was one other question that came up. Ethics to me in AI is a huge opportunity. And I'm so glad you touched on it because it comes up on nearly every show and I make sure it does. Remember when the CI, you may not remember this, but I do. A friend of our family is one of the top Oracle guys from years ago. And so in the neighborhood that I live back in now, he was in this neighborhood and him and his group invented the CIO role. It didn't exist 30 years ago, Chief Information Officer.
Yeah.
I believe as AI is ushered in, we need a new role. I'm calling it Chief Ethics Officer. Like you've got a CEO to lead the org, but you need a co-CEO because otherwise you're going to get bit by some bad rogue AI that doesn't have the ethics under the hood. So maybe Logic Tree, you said, right?
Yeah.
They might be a good one to shepherd in the new role of CEO or whatever they call it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And that is one of the main reasons why I partnered with Logic Tree. All of their models, when you're running queries through the specific software, if you're asking a question that's outside of the boundaries, as you know, one of the kind of downfalls to AI, especially right now, is it hallucinates, right? It won't lie to you, but it will make up information that it kind of assumes to be true because it's like trash in, trash out, right? It's trained on 20% of the internet, which is what? Most of it's trash, right? So we're able to, through Logic Tree, on the back end of our software, ensure that essentially the information that is given to you is ethically sourced specifically through the information that you uploaded in your own environment. And we've partnered with a couple of companies that are best in practice HR, that are like the newest laws, specifically for certain companies. And we have just ensured that everything that we've fed inside of our specific model has been, the best up-to-date information, and it doesn't overstep either in the way of giving you advice that would potentially leave you in a bad situation. It's going to give you enough information to where you either know where to go to find the relevant information for yourself, or it will say, hey, this information is outside of my wheelhouse. I shouldn't be advising on this. You should probably go talk to a lawyer. You're way past my expertise, right? But yeah, 100%. Ethical AI is one of the pillars of AscendAI.
This is amazing. As far as the ideal customer for you, is there a certain employee range, or are you after the companies with thousands, or is there a middle block that you're looking to target right now?
Yeah, great question. So as of right now, our initial go-to-market strategy is to start actually in the startup world. About 65% of startups don't even have an HR person. I didn't have one at my last company. It was like our recruiter that was like also kind of HR, right? So we didn't really have anybody to go and ask questions to, which created a lot of information silos and difficulties within that. So our initial plan is to start with startups, really build out the platform, make sure everything's running, get SOC 2 up and going. And then once we have all of our compliances, we'll move into enterprise so we can ensure data encryption and security.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, get the model trained, let the AI learn, and then roll it out to the bigger companies. Reminds me, there's an IT help desk software that's powered on chat. And I remember 5 years ago, we went out and met with them. They were Series A, then B, then C. I can't remember their name right now, but very similar user experience that they were building via chat for IT, right? Hey, how do I hook my printer up? Reboot your computer. There's so many questions that get asked so many times over and over that it clogs up IT departments. So you're very similar to what they were doing. And received a lot of funding and a lot of growth over the last several years. So
yeah, and I think thank you. The best part of the product too is I remember when I was on sales teams as an employee, we would always be asking our manager, the same questions constantly, like what is the pricing model? What is the pricing model? And after a while, she was like, you guys, you have all asked me the exact same question. So even within uploading documents and having that search model, you can also put in information of like questions and answers that you have been asked so many times that you want to be a part of your database, so that once people go in there and query, it becomes part of that existing database that you can pull answers from, essentially.
Love it. Last question, and we touched on it a little bit, and we talked before we started recording, and that is the impact of AI on people. Do you think it has a net positive effect on jobs, negative, neutral? Where's your head at for the HR departments of the world?
Yeah, 100%. I think AI is 100% augmenting every role. It's not even just sales. When you look at a lot of these tasks like HR querying or writing cold sales emails, those are tasks that are part of people's jobs, but it's probably not what most people enjoy doing, right? From an HR perspective, if you're the sole HR person, if you have 100 HR people, the last thing that you want to be doing is going through and answering like mundane questions about maternity leave and paid time off and, all the things that are important, but you also have your one A to Z list of things that you need to get done in the day, right? And you're responsible for quite a bit of, really valuable choices, expensive choices at your company. So being able to augment professionals and kind of eliminate that mundane layer of your day-to-day tasks that you hate doing, it's going to unlock for people a lot of extra time to be able to innovate, to be able to create more efficient practices. And even from a founder perspective, you were asking earlier, like about scaling out a team, right? And hiring on people. And I think while AI will obviously take some jobs, I think it also democratizes a lot of the information and the kind of bar to entry for people to go and start their own companies and to innovate and to kind of acquire new information, right? So as it kind of, I wouldn't say it takes jobs, but I would say it's definitely going to migrate a lot of the job opportunities to other areas.
And it rises, right? All boats rise. So
totally.
You and I, we get to, maybe we weren't great in marketing and now we can ask a query and become a great CMO. I mean, it's pretty neat what's possible. 100%. And I think that's been echoed throughout the last 200 or so podcasts that we've had. So I'm glad you here have the same perspective. So, well, absolutely. Caitlyn, what's the best way for our audience to reach you if they'd like to get a hold of you? Maybe they're interested in one of those jobs that you may have, or they're interested in buying your product sometime.
Yeah, either hit me up on LinkedIn, Caitlyn Vaughn, or you can shoot me an email at caitlyn@AscendAI.co. And I would be more than happy to have a chat.
Outstanding. Well, we've been talking to Caitlyn Vaughn, the founder and CEO of AscendAI. Fabulous conversation. Thanks so much for sharing your insights on the sales side, the HR side, and all the ins and outs of AI. I look forward to having you back on the show a year from now and seeing what's transpired. I'm sure a lot will. Enjoy Austin, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much, Chad. It's been great talking to you.
Hey, you made it this far in your AI for sales journey. Want to augment your sales growth? First, leave us a review and then visit www.scalex.ai to claim your free strategy session today.